This is Talk of the Devils, the athletic show dedicated to Manchester United. Coming up, Manchester United made a winning start to the Premier League Summer Series in America with a victory over West Ham. We'll react to all the details of the win in NYC as Bruno Fernandes picked up where he left off last season. We'll also have a little bit of a transfer update later on the show. If there is an update, there could be an update. We'll find out later, I guess. But let's introduce you to our full house of merry men. Laurie, Whitwell and Andy Mitten are over in America, and Carl Anka, like me, didn't get an invite. So we're just at home, Carl, aren't we? Following along on Instagram.
Absolutely. Stuck in a tactics truck, watching Laurie and Andy have the time of their lives in New York.
Yeah, if it makes you feel any better, guys, everybody that we bump into keeps asking where you are. That probably doesn't make you feel better, does it? But
probably worse.
You are missed over here.
Andy, you having a good time?
Yeah, New York's one of the great cities of the world, and I've always loved it, and it's reflected in Manchester United's fan base here. You find people from all over the world who've made New York the home, and I've met some really interesting people over the last few days. Give you an example, Hua, who's a novelist, and he won the Pulitzer Prize 2 years ago. Wow. Brendan, an artist originally from Ireland, is called Chinatown Red, and he's pretty well known on sort of Man United social media world. Really talented, and I first met him in 2012. Met the New Jersey Reds, Laurie and I did. They really looked after us, Laurie.
They did indeed. I mean, they gave me this T-shirt for starters with Tony Soprano on, which is nice given I wasn't able to transport all my fashion across from Chicago because I just had hold on. So I'm now wearing it for the podcast. It's practical and aesthetic. I think, Carl, maybe I know you're our fashion guru. You obviously give me a shout on whether it is or not. But yeah,
I'm a fan.
I just jibbed on the monkey bus, didn't I, Andy? Because I saw you do your talk with Wes Brown at Mulligan's in New Jersey, and then I just sort of snuck on this bus that took us all the way to the stadium, ate there, barbecue food at the tailgate, which was fantastic, a couple of burger sliders and chicken wing, and yeah, everyone was so lovely that we spoke to out there. It's been a real pleasure to mingle with everybody.
I tell you what, let's talk about what you two have been up to a little bit later on, because not everyone's tuning in for chicken wing updates. Let's talk about Manchester United beating West Ham. Andy, that's the most important thing that's happened while you've been out in the USA. And Bruno Fernandes, the skipper, has reminded everyone why he should be playing at number 10.
Good win for Manchester United. Nice feeling about the place. I think that's been since Big Bry signed. I think the mood, which was really low a couple of weeks ago, has been boosted by that. I think fans are more confident. I think when fans see the training images, that helps as well. And then you go into a game which United actually win, because we couldn't say that often last year. It was good. United started really well. Bruno, as ever, the main man, got both goals. And some of the worst performances and results last year were against West Ham United. So just to beat them, I know it's only in a friendly. No one's going to be getting too swayed by friendly results. But there were some good movements and some good football. And right from the start, just seeing Rasmus Højlund bursting through was encouraging to see. I thought Manu Ugarte had a very good game. I spoke to him afterwards, and he got a very different figure than the one in sort of April when his confidence was low. So you're looking for positive pointers, partly because you want the team to do well, and partly because you're looking for positive pointers because it's pre-season optimism and all that. But I think yesterday was a good day.
Yeah, Fernandes' role, Laurie, Ruben Amorim's spoken a couple of times about him maybe being used deeper in the team once Mbeumo or Mbeumo, maybe we should talk about that at some point, but I've given up now. Once he and Cunha are both in the team fit and firing, which hopefully is in a couple of matches' time, he'd play deeper. But then when you look again, the impact that he has further up the field, it's going to be a conundrum again, isn't it, to see exactly where he fits in.
Yeah, I mean, I like how Andy just totally dodged your question on Bruno Fernandes and didn't mention him once. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if he's slighted him in the mix zone, didn't answer his question or something, and he's decided I'm not going to mention Bruno Fernandes, the guy that scored both the goals.
I had a belt in mix zone, Laurie.
I know, I saw you, Matheus Cunha, giving a little chat with him. Ugarte speaking in Spanish, flexing your Spanish muscles. It was beautiful to see. But yeah, to the Bruno Fernandes question, it was intriguing, wasn't it?
You're dodging it now. Yeah.
No, I'm coming into it.
Just answer the question, Laurie.
Bring it.
Doing classic politician filibustering.
Sure.
Because, I mean, he also Kobbie Mainoo as well. He'd said that he does his best work sort of higher up the pitch. So I thought it was going to be Mainoo as a 10 and Bruno Fernandes as a 6. But actually they, were in opposite roles. And he said he really liked what Kobbie Mainoo did and clearly liked what Bruno Fernandes did. I think it was really interesting to see Fernandes and Cunha linking. They seem to have a really good connection, little dribbles, little sort of 1-2s and passes around the corner. So I guess he wanted to see how that would develop. And with Big Bry not being fit until they think the third game of this tour, at least he's certainly going to miss the game in Chicago against Bournemouth because he was, wasn't really properly training with Brentford when he was negotiating his exit away. So he's kind of 2 weeks really behind United because Brentford reported for duty back a week later than United did. So yeah, put Bruno Fernandes in that number 10 role and, scored a fabulous goal in the second one. Obviously the first one's a penalty, but it came from Kobbie Mainoo pushing on from his deeper position to intercept the ball from Areola. So you can sort of see why both players have good attributes in both roles, but I think it's just going to be one that runs and runs really because you've got so many players that probably are at their best in that number 10 role, but can they sort of adapt and work in this system where Ruben Amorim clearly wants sort of, a kind of mobile number 8 alongside a number 6 sort of patroller, protector of defence almost, which is kind of where Manuel Ugarte came in. So, but I think what it did show is that Bruno Fernandes' quality is just still there. He's still got the energy and drive, and it's obviously a good thing, I think, for Manchester United that he didn't go to Saudi Arabia for all the millions that were on offer there.
I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, it's a great thing that he didn't go. When I was reading about it this morning, it's like, oh yeah, he turned down Saudi Arabia, didn't he? I forgot all about that.
It was only the post-season tour, big story, wasn't it? And now it's pre-season. It feels such a lifetime ago.
We'll hear from Mason Mount actually on the subject of all the players who want to play number 10. He's one of those players clearly. But Carl, one of the big takeaways for me from that 90 minutes against West Ham, or certainly the first sort of 60 to 70 minutes when it was the first choice 11, maybe, we'll find out as time goes on the field together, was the interplay, was working together in pressing out of position, working together in possession, interchanging, link up, all the things that at times it feels like this team has lacked under Ruben Amorim. And Matheus Cunha and Bruno Fernandes in particular seem to enjoy that more than anyone.
Absolutely. These are two players that can really relish one-touch and two-touch passing. Going by a lot of the feedback, I woke up at 8 o'clock this morning on a Sunday, see everyone's
with
comments.
With a hangover. Let's be honest, Mr. Anka.
With a hangover, yes. I went to a wedding last night, so I woke up with a hangover and watched the extended highlights this morning. And one of the more common phrases...
one eye.
One of the more common phrases being used is something I'm not feeling right now, which is sharpness. Everyone's saying,
sure.
United was sharp. United looked sharp. Any player who looked good is being described as looking sharp.
You look sharp. I saw the picture on Instagram. Wedding ready.
Fresh haircut.
You look sharp.
That sort of things.
Yeah.
And I think Cunha and Fernandes are going to benefit from playing close to each other. We'll figure out if that position is at the 8 or the 10 for Fernandes, because they're two players that like to they have the playmaker brain, so to speak. I really, really enjoyed Dorgu's partnership with Cunha, I must say. And I think, well, it's looking like Cunha's got that left-sided 10 role sewed up. So Cunha, got my names mixed up here. There's the hangover. So if Dorgu can really keep running in behind, stretching the fences, he's doing 2 or 3 underlapping runs, which are really interesting. I think Cunha's going to be better at spotting them than some of the previous players who played left-sided 10 last season as well. So hopefully Dorgu will be like a new signing, despite the fact he already arrived in January for us in the new season. I love what Delic did as well. And I've just watched the 3-minute segment just on Mainoo's performance because I found that exceptional to watch and really, really promising there too. So yeah, okay, pre-season. I'm not going to get too carried away there yet, but there are phases of play in there that feel more Amorim-like, feels closer to what Amorim achieved at Sporting, and hopefully that can continue and improve upon in the next couple of games too.
I was going to move it on actually to talk a bit more about Cunha, but with you saying there about Kobbie Mainoo being exceptional, what was it in particular that you really liked about his performance then that makes you be so positive about it?
There was an aggression in central midfield in the first half in particular from Mainoo and to Ugarte as well. I know loads of people were talking about Ugarte's run and set up for a mad for that offside goal, which I'll leave Andy and Laurie to describe properly because they were in the stadium. But to me, at least, the segments I did get to see, you've seen both of these players jump up and really, instead of letting the problems in midfield grow and grow and grow, both those players like, nah, I'm not having that right now. I'm going to move forward and stop that from happening. That's best exemplified by the second goal, which is just mainly nabbing an interception before giving it to Fernandes as well. So, yeah, they look sharper than how they have looked before. And I don't just mean they look sharper than Leeds. They also look sharper than how they looked towards some of those Premier League games towards the back end of the season as well. So that's nice. They look more capable of running to the degree that Amorim wants them to run. I'm sure suffering is ahead because Amorim loves using that word too, but they seem better equipped to deal with that.
How good was Cunha, Andy?
Nice interchanges. Lovely touches as well. I think we saw that against Leeds in Stockholm. You do want to see something magical before too long. You want to see a goal or a lovely assist, but there's a nice feeling about him. He's just getting used to playing with his new teammates, and I like Carl's point about Dorgu, and you can apply this to Ugarte as well. This is a season they'll properly be judged. I think every player should be allowed a bedding-in period.
Yeah.
And they're starting to form these relationships. And it's something I spoke to a couple of the players about. It takes time. You can't just arrive and flick on a switch and everything's fine unless your name's Eric Cantona and you're surrounded by world-class players. This team's in a very different state. I try and speak to people about what's Cunha like, and you're not getting raised eyebrows as in, this is going to be a mistake. You're hearing nice things. More than one player has told me that he talks a lot in different languages in a good way. So you're just building up a picture of someone that you don't know a lot about because you've watched him play for other teams. But I think his currency will be in scoring and making assists. That's what he's been brought to do. That's what he did for Wolves. We still have nightmares watching him maraud through Manchester United's midfield at Old Trafford a couple of years ago. How on earth did Manchester United win that game? So United have not scored enough goals. The goals need to come. They need to come from Cunha. And you hope that it's not just the individual, but that which leads into something Carl said, they're combining better with better players. They've got a better understanding of the players around him. And then if things start to go right, confidence, it's another thing. Spoke to different players who just talked about the confidence last season being low. It was low among the fans. You could see it. So you can sort of turn that negative spiral into a positive spiral, then things can start looking up pretty quickly.
Yeah, you hope that Manchester United's going to bring the best out in Matheus Cunha, Laurie. I mean, I interviewed him last season. I've spoken about it before on the podcast at Wolves and did a bit of work at Molineux throughout the season. And I can't sit here and say that the feedback on Matheus Cunha was always 100% positive in every aspect of his work. However, when you watch him playing for United and you listen to him talk as well, and the way that Ruben Amorim spoke about him as well, it feels like he's ready for this step. It feels like he's ready for this stage. And you just hope that the added pressure, the added responsibility, playing for a more high-profile club with more ambition of being further up the Premier League table this time, hopefully, you really do hope that that is the catalyst for him to show exactly what he can do on the pitch as a player and off it as a character as well. Yeah,
he looks like a player, a person that thrives on the big stage and wants that, pressure,
we need a
shall
bit
we
of
say.
That.
Well, because
United need a bit of that.
He was asked about that at the pre-match press conference. It was interesting that United put him straight up, no problem. Sometimes with new signings, if they're not that way inclined, they will protect them a little bit, but there was none of that. He was asked about the pressure of playing for Manchester United, and he said, well, it's the pressure that I want. It's a privilege, actually. I when I spoke to Ruben Amorim before the game, the idea was that before signing, the idea was that we want to build this club back up. It's a challenge, and that's a challenge that I want for my career. So you did have options to go elsewhere. I do believe, Champions League clubs. I mean, okay, maybe when push comes to shove, were United the ones that were the obvious choice anyway. But I think he could have gone elsewhere. This release clause was an appealing sort of price point for some clubs. So I thought, and to Andy's point, I mean, it's interesting that Ruben Amorim was saying that he is very loud. He's very Brazilian. I love that. He's certainly making his personality felt.
Yeah,
he was in open open training, we could see it's only 15 minutes, so it's a snapshot, but you can see him interacting with his other teammates. Him and Casemiro were having a joke. There was Bruno Fernandes and Luke Shaw. They were doing a little little conga with kind of attaching the recording devices to each other, the GPS or whatever it was. So you can sort of see him interacting with his teammates already. And, I suppose you want to make sure that he's able to let other people sort of say their piece as well. But I think his language skills are to a degree that you can knit sort of different groups together. So that's the hope there, that, you've got this kind of presence that is not only on the pitch, somebody that can connect, but also off the pitch as well.
I asked one of his teammates the other day, just tell me one word to describe Cunha. There's a little pause and the word came back, Samba. And I'm like, oh, what, he wears Adidas Samba? No. I was obviously joking when I said that. So I heard that said about Ronaldinho many times, and you just hope that the Samba can stay on the, what he's doing on the football pitch. I don't mind if he's going to have a little celebration after winning a trophy with Manchester United. And I think you're right, Ian, you're diplomatic there. I also went to Wolves. I heard mixed things about him. I sense, looking at it through my red tinted spectacles, that he was frustrated being there. He's now on a much bigger stage. He does have a chance to shine. I'm hoping that he's learned his lessons from, Atletico Madrid was a big stage as well, where he was playing, and he's not played anywhere as big as Manchester United. It's ahead of the World Cup. I spoke to Diego Costa about him, and he was absolutely glowing about him. And that was a couple of months ago. So, yeah, it's all going to work out perfectly, isn't it?
Wait, when were you talking to Diego Costa?
I spoke to Diego Costa. Do you just want me to check on my phone just to see when that conversation was?
Diego Costa is in former Chelsea striker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Diego Costa is in former Chelsea striker. I spoke to him. I spoke to him on Sunday, the 27th of April at 8:51 in the morning. And I spoke to him for 25 minutes, and I don't know him, but somebody put me in touch with him and said, it's a good idea for you to speak to Diego Costa. And that was in relation to Carlo Ancelotti becoming Brazil manager. So I had a chat with him, and I thought, I'm not just going to talk to him about Ancelotti. I'm going to talk to him about Anthony, Casemiro, and Matheus Cunha as well, who was at Wolves. And he said some things which were quite perceptive, like, not only should Casemiro be back in the Brazil team, he should be captain of Brazil. 2 weeks later, bang, bang, bang. He spoke very well about Anthony, but he actually knows Cunha. He's friends with him. He was at Wolves, wasn't he?
Yes,
they may have played together at Atletico as well, didn't they?
Yes. So he knew him. He said he described him as like a close friend, and he's hardly going to slaughter his close friend to a journalist he's just speaking to for the first time. But he said he should be playing at a bigger club, which, taken out of context at the time, could have been seen as being disrespectful to Wolverhampton Wanderers fans. But yeah, you asked a question, and I told you when I spoke to him.
I don't know why, but this has blown my head clean off.
It shouldn't do.
It shouldn't do, but just the idea of you two being in the same room is just not quite computing in my head. Also, the fact that you say
spoke on WhatsApp. We've just seen that. Yeah,
but
I had a chat with him. But I've got contacts coming out of my ears, mate. I can't help that these things happen.
He's just said, we're not really mates, but we spoke for 25 minutes. I barely speak to my mates for 25 minutes on the phone. So there you go.
Well, you speak to us for longer than 25 minutes several times a week, Carl. So
this is where my social battery goes. Anyway,
absolutely,
a man of 1,000 mild surprises.
Let's come back to the West Ham game if we can, Carl. I mean, how close? This is a really difficult question. I'm really sorry, but how close do you think that starting lineup was from the team that will play against Arsenal in the first game in the Premier League? And how interesting was it that he didn't make wholesale changes at halftime? It was more like 20 minutes from the end where all the changes came in.
Okay, so I'm looking at the starting lineup in front of me right now. I'd say Lenny Yoro probably going to start against Arsenal. Ahmad will feature. I'm not sure if he's going to start. Ugarte is likely to feature. Mainoo feature. Dorgu's going to start. Fernandes going to start. Højlund probably someone who's going to feature. So it's only really Aiden Heaven, who I'd say is perhaps less likely to feature at all against Arsenal and Bayern Munich, because I'm going to assume injury luck is on.
Onana was training after the game on the pitch, so that's a good sign.
I'm going to assume injury luck for everyone, not just Onana, is on United side. I think De Ligt's a really interesting one to me, in that he absolutely has enough to start, but also because Amorim has a surplus of centre-backs, he might opt to keep him on the bench or use him in a different way based on how Arsenal set up. And I think this is also the head scratch I've currently got, in that Amorim's probably secretly developing more than one starting 11 for the start of the season, because how you play against Arsenal away, how you play against Arsenal at home on match day one is going to be a little bit different to the expectation of when you go to Craven Cottage to take on Fulham as well. So maybe there's two bands there. But yeah, in short, loads of those players should start in my head.
Amorim was asked about this after the game, and he said, I haven't made any decisions yet, but you can clearly see with the fact that they played 70 minutes that, he's got an idea there, right? I mean, Luke Shaw is the left-sided centre-back. He replaced Aiden Heaven. So you sort of think, I agree with Carl there, maybe that's one that happens. Lisandro Martinez is on tour, but the expectation, I believe at the moment, is that he'll miss the first 3 games of the Premier League at least. It's still, I think he's hoping to be back after that, but there's, different time spans depending on who you speak to.
Was there an update on Onana with him training afterwards, Laurie?
No, not from Amorim, but I was told previously that he was hoping to be fit for the Arsenal game. So obviously, if he's now training after the game, it was interesting that they did a full training session after the match. Certainly, the players that weren't performing went for a more intense sort of routine. But yeah, they did that sort of training session before flying back to Chicago. So I mean, I think they're sort of the few areas to look at maybe. And then obviously, it just depends if anything does happen in the transfer window, which we'll maybe get onto. But I think that looked quite a lot like what you might see against Arsenal on the first day.
I think the good thing is there's options. I think, particularly in the back three, that there were multiple times in the last 2 years where Lisandro Martinez being injured constantly had people checking, when's Martinez coming back? Whereas in theory now there's enough cover that you don't have. I'm not saying they rushed him back to games previously, but he can be afforded a little bit of time to grow into things, because Luke Shaw's there, Aiden Heaven's there. There are players that can do that role on the left-sided of the three. So that's nice if you're Lisandro Martinez. Tell a lie. Lisandro Martinez is hyper competitive, so I'm sure he's going to go, hang on, wait, that's my spot.
So this is what United want. They want a lead actor for each position being pushed by 2 other players, one of whom may not make it, but will at least get a chance, and maybe they'll be sold on, and maybe that's for a profit. And United are actively recruiting younger players quite aggressively, paying quite a lot of money to it. Got a brilliant scouting network in London. And you've seen some of the players coming up from London. United have missed out on a couple of other players. So we don't know how good Chido or Aiden Heaven's going to be, but I'd say it's been pretty encouraging start given how young they both are. When I was speaking to my close friend Diego Costa for the first time in my life, I'll be serious a bit now, but here's what he said to me because I think it's quite interesting. Look, Matheus Cunha, he said, I'm a close friend of his. I'm not a close friend of you, Andy. We played together. When he arrived at Wolves, I saw he had a lot of quality. He's a player who needs to score goals. I told him this. He wanted to give assists, but with his talent, he needed to score, not to be average. He's a player who likes a bit of freedom in a formation, and if he gets that, he's at his best. But I think with respect to Wolves, he must make the jump to a very big club, not Manchester City, he didn't say, and get more of a reputation. I think Matheus is going to be a candidate to be in the national team for the next World Cup if he keeps up his form and makes a jump now to a very, very big team in England and scores goals. He's a great player. He's going to but he has to have a higher level because he has the talent. I saw him up close. I saw him in training. There are many things. He has a lot of talent.
Andy, I'm fascinated to hear your opinion on the MetLife Stadium as a venue for football, because throughout the years, we've heard multiple complaints about the turf or the quality of the grass there, and also the getting in and getting out of that stadium, because it's just so car heavy, full of car parks. And did you enjoy getting to and going from the MetLife?
I knew it was bad, Carl, because I've been before, and I tried to be as well planned as possible, and to realise that Laurie would have done zero planning into this. So I took him under my wing. I got him a lift with the New Jersey Reds, who were very generous with us. I escorted him to a tailgate, then towards the stadium. I made sure that he was staying hydrated and that he had food. The pitch was a bit dry. It's not the biggest pitch in the world. The stadium, as a piece of architecture, is really impressive. Do not go to the bars there unless you want to be fleeced like 250 quid for a bottle of water or whatever it was. And that's sort of the whole Americana thing. It's not close to the centre of Manhattan, but then how could you build a big stadium in the centre of Manhattan where land is at a premium? It's on the site of Meadowlands, the old Giant Stadium. So if you want the big stadiums, you've got to leave Manhattan, do the tunnel and bridge thing. It wasn't as bad as I thought, partly because there wasn't 82,000 people there, nowhere near. We got away pretty easily, didn't we?
I just think quite positively about these kind of experiences. You know, serendipity, what will be, will be. I wanted to come see you at Mulligan's in New Jersey when you were doing your big tour, because I wanted to show some support, some solidarity in the crowd, because I know you get nervous in front of these kind of crowds because you're new to this kind of thing, you know, chatting to Wes. So anyway, and then from that moment, the transport just happened for me. The food just happened for me. It was brilliant. It was lovely.
I loved seeing him. I've not seen him for about a few days, and because he laughs at everything I say, and there's no one in the world just laughs at everything I say. It's a fantastic feeling. If you're ever feeling down, just spend time with Laurie. But the United fans there are from such a diverse group. A gentleman got in touch with me called Locke, who's one of the bosses at the that youth hostel, the Waldorf Astoria, which is its incredible location. I was talking to a guy in the Longacre bar on Friday, and that's run by Pete Holland, and he's sort of been very active in United supporters clubs in America for years. He's a Manchester lad. He was a footballer. He moved over to America to play. And I took it to this lad called Kevin Grogan, and he's like, yeah, I'm a footballer. I'm from Dublin. I came over to play. I was playing in England. I'm like, where were you playing? It's Manchester United. Oh, yeah? What level? And sometimes at that point you get like, I was released when I was 10. No, I was a professional at Manchester United. All right. Until the age of what? No, I went, I was in the reserves. And who did you play with? John O'Shea. So if I ask John O'Shea now who you are, yeah, try it. So I sent John O'Shea a picture. And John said, absolutely brilliant midfielder. So then I Googled Kevin, and he's like, yeah, Republic of Ireland, European champion, under 16, under 17, whatever it was. And he had a bad injury, but Alex Ferguson brought him to the club. Alex Ferguson gave him a recommendation when he wanted to start a new life in the United States. And that's, we see a lot of negative things about the United States, but some of the positive things is the opportunity it gives people like Kevin, who's now successful over here, and Pete Holland, and Pete was a Manchester lad. It was great. He was a former young pro at Manchester United doing really well over here.
Yeah, and it gave you the opportunity, Andy, to mix with Lowry Whitwall as well, didn't it?
Hi, it's Andy here, my first video from the US tour. I'm in Mulligan's Bar, just across the water from Manhattan. Just done an event here with Wes Brown's, absolutely packed with United fans. Stone Roses are playing. And I've just met a fellow United fan, Laurie. Where are you from, Laurie?
Hi, Andy. I'm from a place called Stockport, just outside of Manchester. I've come all the way across the Atlantic to support the Reds, get behind them, and come see you. I also thought that you needed to see a familiar face when you're in front of the crowd. I know you get a little bit nervous when you're speaking.
I get nervous.
A big group, so yeah, I just wanted to go and show some support for you.
Thank you for coming along, Laurie. Who's your favourite Manchester United player?
I would say it is Bruno Fernandes, because he scores goals, creates chances, and he's a great figurehead for the club.
I just wanted a name, not a life story. We're going to go to the MetLife Stadium now. We're going to get a coach there with the Reds from New Jersey here. Good bunch of lads and ladies. It's where the World Cup final is going to be staged next year. Can we have a score prediction for this huge game against West Ham United? The Hammers?
0-0.
0-0? I'm going to go for 0-0 as well. Goodbye.
Yeah, I mean, Laurie, there's been a lot of feedback to this. Obviously, it was quite clear that it wasn't Lowry Whitwall. It was actually Laurie Whitwell on that video. But then again, was it? Because he didn't say that Mason Mount was his favourite player at Manchester United, which has caused quite a stir, mate.
Well, this is it, and I think you've realised that I've got one joke that I've told twice there on the podcast, so I'm pleased for that, about supporting Andy. But yeah, sure. I mean, that's why I was really playing the role of Lowry Whitwall because, he loves Bruno Fernandes, and then Bruno Fernandes delivered with a fantastic performance. But obviously, Laurie Whitwell, his favourite player is Mason Mount. And I was thrilled to have a opportunity to speak to him at the youth hostel that Andy mentioned there, the Waldorf Astoria at the team hotel a few days ago, where it was put to him by George, the press officer, that I should introduce myself properly because we kind of did the handshakes, and then he said, "Are you not going to tell him all about your adoration of him from the podcast?" So I tried to
one way of describing it.
Yeah, I sort of explained it a little bit, and then I realised I was going down a bit of a rabbit hole, and he was sort of nodding and looking a bit nervous, and then and I tried to sort of break the ice then a bit more by saying that I'd interviewed him years ago when he was at Derby County on loan from Chelsea, and he sort of was like, you could see him like thinking, I have no recollection of that whatsoever.
Laurie, this is fantastic. He didn't have a clue who you were. You've been talking about him for years. You absolutely adore him. You're desperate for him to be not just a star at Man United, the captain, get back into England, lead England, winning the World Cup next year. Mason sends you a picture of him with the World Cup. This is like your dream scenario.
I'm probably on the pitch, like, in the VIP section that he's invited me to, that kind of stuff.
And you've got in a room with him, he's like, "Sorry, mate, what was that?"
Exactly.
Can do that on video.
Is he a good lad, Laurie?
I liked him, yeah. I mean, I would say that, but...
you would, yeah.
Yeah, and obviously it is an interesting dynamic, isn't it? Because we're talking about number 10s, and that's his role, right? He came on in that position for the last 20 minutes, didn't score, which I was very disappointed about, but he spoke pretty well, I think, overall about the struggles that United have had. The kind of obviously touched on the issues that he's had in terms of the injuries, but he's absolutely determined. You can tell the confidence in himself that he is back, from his injuries. He's fresh, he's feeling sharp. He was doing sort of work in pre-season to make sure that he came into this fully fit, and also he still backs himself to get enough game time. Ruben Amorim clearly likes him. He spoke so highly of him last season, started him in the Europa League final. It didn't work out in that game. He said that hurt. He said it's really tough to get over that, and you look at everything that you did. I started the game, he said, so what could I have done in this situation? What could I have done in another moment as well? But I think he's someone that analyses the game quite a lot, and it was interesting that he sort of, I think Amorim has given him license to speak to the younger players as well about the kind of appreciation of space on a pitch. I think that's one of the aspects why a lot of coaches really like him, that intelligence on the pitch and what is required from particular roles, which he has done obviously with Chelsea, winning the Champions League in that kind of number 10 position in a back three system under Thomas Tuchel. But yeah, I think probably the main takeaway was the fact that he still is backing himself to get plenty of game time in this system, even though there's no European football and even though there's a lot of players in his position.
Okay, let's hear from him.
But yeah, it's been brilliant. I mean, we're all doing stuff together away from the training pitch, spending time with each other. That's massive for a long season where you're about to go in and fight against other teams. So yeah, we're in a really good place, and there's still obviously time for us to work at things and everything like that. But yeah, we're good and we'll be ready for it.
It sounds like you do back yourself though, with all the new signings, with a lot of players in that position. But it sounds like you back yourself to still get the matches that you want and make that impression on Ruben, to get the performances and get the impact that you want.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, anytime you do get that opportunity to be on the pitch, you wanna do something. You want to affect the game. That's always the way I've looked at it. Any opportunity you get, you got to try and take it. And I'll always back myself. I know what I can do, but we're a team and we're all working together in that. And obviously, with the new signings coming in, that they're going to elevate us to another level, and we all need to be at that level to really perform.
Didn't he make his United debut in New York? He played really well against Arsenal 2 years ago, Mason Mount. He really outshone Declan Rice. And 2 years on from that, I think Declan Rice is more highly considered because he's won, just check, absolutely nothing with Arsenal. Whereas, Mason's had a very difficult time with injuries, hasn't he? And I hope you're right, Laurie. I like your enthusiasm for him. These coaches can't all be wrong, but he does need to play a lot. And it's one of the disadvantages of this season. There's not going to be as many opportunities because there's fewer games.
Carl, when you look at the midfield, I mean, we've had lots of questions about this. We've touched upon some of the aspects, obviously, when we were reflecting on the win over West Ham. But Norbu sums it up a little bit, really. He says, I'm deeply concerned about the lack of credible links to midfielders who suit Amorim's system. It's a long-standing weakness. Given that Andy and Laurie have strong connections at the club, could they please convey the urgency of signing a quality midfielder who actually fits the system? Maybe they could refer the club to Cal's shopping for Amorim piece. I mean, I'm not sure if any of us are going to carry out those instructions verbatim, but is it a concern that, that it seems like a lot of these players that United have at the moment are more well suited to the 10 rather than the deeper positions? As impressive as Manu Ugarte was in that friendly against West Ham, it still maybe feels like an area, along with Casemiro, that United might be able to still do something, possibly.
Yes, I totally see where you're coming from. One, there's no doubt in my mind that Man United have their own shortlist of central midfielders that is far better than anything I could knock up, because they're creating these lists over the course of several months, and I probably have.
They've already read the article, Carl. They've taken it on board, and it's part of the research, I'm sure. So, yeah.
So there's that. Midfielder's a problem. Midfield has been a problem for Manchester United since Michael Carrick's retirement, basically. There have been signings made in that position multiple times. I think there have been definite high points in the post-Ferguson time period in central midfield. I really liked what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did with Matic as a holder, and Herrera as a shuttler, I should say, and Paul Pogba on the left of the three. That was quite nice, but then Herrera got injured and Pogba started flirting with Real Madrid. There was Casemiro's first season, where he looked to be the be-all and end-all and the lone pivot that we've all dreamed of having for Manchester United. But then he had his second season where he started getting injured and it just looked like way too much space for him to cover. I'm doing a piece that will be out next week about how the arrival of Cunha and Mbeumo is going to affect a whole bunch of other positions. And I think one of the big head scratchers is what we've talked about a little bit earlier, Bruno Fernandes. Because if you are going to have Fernandes in your team, you're going to have to play him as a number 8 box-to-box midfielder. And I have been very hesitant about playing Fernandes in that role up until maybe the latter half of last season. I think post-Anfield, he's shown some capability there, but also we've had games like the Europa League final where it's not quite worked. If you play Fernandes in a box-to-box role, his initial inclination is to try and get forward because he's a playmaker first and foremost. He wants to get forward, which then increases pressure on whoever is next to him or behind him to be that sort of athletic, tough tackling, shin kicker who can get the ball to Fernandes when Fernandes goes into that final third and also take care of all that space. You want Casemiro when he was 26. Unfortunately, you've got Casemiro when he's 33. And Ugarte's looking sharper, but I've spoken before about his longer passing range and how sometimes he can have difficulty there. We'll see if he can keep building on what we're seeing. I think the same thing for Mainoo. He looks very impressive, but we want to see his passing over a longer range. We also want to see if he can start, walloping people like Casemiro can do as well. So, huge question marks over who's the best Fernandes partner out of everyone who's currently there. Even bigger question marks about how do you go about getting a Fernandes partner in the transfer market when you don't have 60 to 100 million burning in your back pocket, because that's probably the sort of money you would ideally want to be dropping on a player.
Yeah, and that's the question. Will there be any more money coming in, Laurie, to be able to bring in anyone else? Amorim has now spoken about the idea that the 4 players of Anthony, Jadon Sancho, I'm forgetting them, Tyrell Malacia, and who's the other one? And Alejandro Garnacho, there you go. Got there in the end. Could actually still be reintegrated if United don't receive the correct bid. I mean, is that just a negotiating position and trying to disrupt the feeling on that a little bit, considering they're nowhere near the US tour, or do you think that is a distinct possibility?
I think that's very much part of the negotiation strategy in my mind anyway, because clearly you've got 4 players there who all the clubs in the world know are not part of Amorim's plans and not part of United's future. So why would they bid any kind of money that would be a true reflection of their market value in that circumstance? So at least Amorim is trying to create the idea that they could come back into the team. I suppose in the same way that Jadon Sancho was brought on pre-season tour last summer we all knew he was going to depart because it had got to at that point with Erik ten Hag and even the club wider than that as well. So he's obviously trying to start building up that value a little bit because let's not forget him sort of saying to Alejandro Garnacho in the dressing room after the end of the season that he needed to find a new club, basically, sort of words to that effect, or have a good agent to do so. That obviously got out, so clubs know that, and so the clubs are like, well, actually, maybe we'll just wait until it absolutely has to happen that United sell these players because we know they are going that way. So to create this idea that they could come back, I think he has to do that. But yeah, I think the reality might be somewhat different. Although I suppose he's saying that they have got a price in mind, and they need clubs do need to match that to actually get the green light and get it over the line. But I don't know, I just think that when push comes to shove and the deadline approaches, I wonder how strong those sort of stances will hold up.
Are there any updates on those four?
Not that I'm aware of since we last spoke. We've mentioned obviously Chelsea with Garnacho, Real Betis with Anthony, Juventus looking at Jadon Sancho, Tara Malacia. I'm not sure. I mean, it feels like he's his value. Perhaps I think United would be. They just appreciate that the reality of that one, and equally Jadon Sancho. It's more about his wages and getting those off the books than perhaps recouping anything like a serious transfer fee. But it's Anthony and Alejandro Garnacho that are the two players that do retain value in my mind, and getting sort of I don't know how many millions you think they're worth is interesting. I mean, Garnacho, for example, I think people were looking at trying to get 70 million for him, something like that at the start of the summer. Now, maybe that was itself a negotiating point where ultimately they would have accepted 60. But are clubs really going to pay that kind of money? You certainly look at Chelsea as one that would think, well, actually, we'll just wait until, the end of the window, and Garnacho, from his point of view, then perhaps get some more favourable personal terms if, the transfer fee is lower. So, I'm not sure on any particular developments on that at present, but we've got Jason Wilcox out here. He was at Mulligan's watching Andy yesterday. I didn't actually ask him anything about this, so that's on me to fail to grill him on that kind of stuff. But it was nice to see him interacting with fans. Omar Barada's obviously out here as well. So you've got the executive structure. They're aware that this tour, they've got the two big players in that they wanted, and I think they're aware that they can perhaps then ramp up negotiations and kind of what they do in the final weeks of the window once they get back. But obviously they've got people still in the UK and still on the continent of Europe sort of working on these talks. So let's see if anything happens whilst they are away on US tour.
Right, well, before we go any further, big thank you to everyone who's subscribed to our YouTube channel so far. The number's above 20,000 subscribers now, so thank you very much to every single one of you. We want to keep pushing that number even more, of course, so if you've not done that, click subscribe, give us a like, get involved in the comments as well. There's been some brilliant remarks already. Thank you particularly to the person who said they'd seen us on YouTube and now they're going back to listening on the podcast.
Wow.
That's what we want,
honest feedback. Yeah, honest feedback. So yeah, thank you very much. I wish I could name you, but yes, I enjoyed that anyway. Also, obviously, we've got our X account now to add to our Instagram and TikTok accounts. And if you've not seen us on YouTube as well, the handle is the same for all of them, TOT Devils. So go and have a look at those. And you can get involved, of course, as always, with the email, devilspod@theathletic.com. And that's exactly what Joel has done ahead of Manchester United. And of course, Andy and Laurie heading over to there. So he says, as a United supporter and a Chicagoan, which apparently is a phrase for people from Chicago, I've learned something new. I want to welcome you to our beautiful city. Make sure you don't miss out the fact that Chicago is one of the best food cities in the world. I want to encourage you, however, to skip the fine dining and eat chips. And eat like a local.
Yes.
While here, might I recommend trying an Italian beef, which is the staple dish of the city, or if you're feeling particularly adventurous, another Chicago original, the Jibarito, which is a Puerto Rican-style sandwich. So thank you for that, Joel. Listener Dan has also provided quite an extensive list of eateries, and Mid has tipped us off on a Waffle House in Atlanta, which is for obviously later on in the tour as well. So what have you got planned exactly, you two, for the next step of this trip? This holiday, Laurie?
well, just all different kinds of chips, obviously, to start with. But then after I've washed those down, I will be having some more deep pan pizza. I had a Lou Malnati's the other night, where it's like, pretty deep, pretty substantial. I had three slices of it. Go on.
You had a deep pan pizza in New York before
in Chicago.
Okay, sorry. Thank you for
we've been in Chicago for a few days before we came to New York.
He's hungover, Laurie. Leave him out.
And then I obviously didn't eat the full thing because it was too much to eat, and so I had it for breakfast the next morning, the leftover slice. So that's just how I roll. The perfect way to start a day. Obviously, the carbs, the energy that it provided. But yeah, they're great recommendations. I'm certainly after all the kind of culinary experiences you can get. It's a beautiful city, Chicago. We had I've had some fantastic walks around, and it's a really nice place to enjoy. So I'm definitely going to embrace the next few days when we get back there.
And are you excited about Chicago? I mean, you've made the most of New York. We've talked about the event with Wes. You also went to the New York Stock Exchange, and you've just been assessing United's impact in the US so far, really.
Yeah, there's loads of sort of stuff that United do that doesn't really get much coverage, and they work with charities over here, Street Soccer, Rick McGrath and Nick, who sort of the fan liaison side of things. There's a lot that goes on, and they're working with communities, and they do this everywhere. So Manchester United land, and obviously the first team get all the coverage, but there's all this sort of activity that the club do where former players are coaching in pretty challenging areas and spreading the good word of Manchester United. Some of the kids from these charities were involved in ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange on Friday. The Manchester United Foundation are involved in activities in the United States towards the end of the tour. The foundation had people out here doing stuff. So all good charitable stuff. It's not front page news, but I think it's really important because Manchester United, they do take a match fee from coming to places like this. But we saw the other day the Niagara Falls turned red, white and black, and that was because the local supporters club there are well contacted there. I wasn't there, but visually it looked fantastic. And you just meet this wave of enthusiasm. And I always find it quite flattering as a Manchester lad. You go around the world and you meet people who are just absolutely in love with your football club, and they know so much about your football club. They dream of going to Old Trafford in a lot of cases. But as to what I'm going to do in Chicago, I'm just going to work really hard.
Being a journalist, right?
Yeah, I want to make Laurie sound really bad there. Laurie's on holiday all week, and I'm just going to meet contacts.
Down, am I?
And not just from
especially
Manchester
when I was going to go
United.
to a Cubs game.
Yeah.
Did you go? Or are you going?
Yeah, I went to one already. Yeah,
Wrigley Field's one of my favourite stadiums, but we ain't going there.
No, we're not.
I'll meet
We're
people
definitely
from
not.
Everton as well, from Bournemouth. A lad I used to play football with was working for Chicago Fire. I messaged him. I said, Nacho, how are you doing? You're still assistant manager at the Fire? He said, no, I lost my job 3 months ago. All right, I won't be meeting Nacho when I'm in Chicago then, but just the rhythm of our job. It is a brilliant, brilliant city, and I've just realised that I've not booked a hotel for next Friday night because I got my dates wrong. So,
Oh, wow.
if you're in Chicago, you got to put me
who
up for
needs
the night.
Laurie's help now? It's from me having my handheld. So does Andy Mitten need his handheld?
I was going to go to another city. I like going to new places, and I looked at Minneapolis and I looked at Milwaukee because it's not as far as Minneapolis. And then I think the manager's going to speak to the journalist next week, so I might not get out of Chicago, but there's enough there to keep people entertained.
Listen, if you want to go head to toe, Andy, the bed's big enough.
That is a visual we don't need.
That is a visual we don't need.
You mentioned the Manchester United Foundation. They're in action in Texas, actually. So they're taking off another aspect and another city, another part of the country in the USA. They've sending a team over from Manchester, actually, to take place in the Genuine Cup. So they do a lot of brilliant work in Manchester, and what an opportunity that is for some of the kids to travel over and take part in that tournament. So good luck to all of them. We're going to leave it there on Talk of the Devils. there is so much more we could talk about in terms of just Andy and Laurie's travails over in the USA, but there'll be more podcasts while they're away to do exactly that. But thank you for your company, whether you've been watching on YouTube or listening along on the podcast. We love it that you get involved. We love your enthusiasm, and thank you for the tips as well. Carl, Andy, Laurie, thank you for being with us, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching the show. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, most importantly, and click that bell so you never miss an episode of Talking the Devils.